But one more minute and we'll get started. Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. So for those of you, hey everyone, thanks for coming. This is the DHCP working group. So I'll start from the beginning. This is Vancouver. If you're in the wrong place, welcome anyway. Welcome to DHCP. Bernie, my co-chair, as you can see, is remote. He's hanging out in New Hampshire, I believe. So he stayed up with us tonight, which is awesome.
Yep, that's correct.
Sweet. Here's the note. Well, I know we're still early in the week, so you haven't seen this a million times, but if you're in the room, you are agreeing to this, please take a look at it. If you've not seen it before, I suggest you go read it. This is important things we want everybody to understand. They're agreeing to this. This includes, heavily on the patent side, patent applications. So just please make sure you take some time to read this if you've not seen it before and you understand it. Thanks. Yep, notice a note well. MeetEcho does blue sheets now. Bernie and I are co-chairs. Do we have a note taker, Bernie? I saw you started a copy, it looked like.
Somebody else actually started that. I don't know who did. But, yep.
Okay. Do we have anyone willing to take notes for this? Yeah, Bernie is typing now. So I think Bernie will take. Bernie, are you good recording everything for us?
I'll try. Yep. I mean, again, assistance is always welcome, especially when things get hot and heavy.
Yes. Yes. Oh, Tomak jumped in too. He can take notes. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Great. Thank you. Okay. So, got a note taker. Here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk 8415 to Internet Standard. We're going to talk about DHCP v4 over DHCP v6 relays and next steps. So it's pretty short today. A couple of regular updates we have for you guys. We have regular documents. We have 2 of them currently that are working group documents. We have adder, DHCP adder notifications, and that one I think is in, yes, it's approved, right? It's been approved. It's in RFC editor. We're in the last stages. We're good with it. We just need to get it over the last hump, so that's good. 8415 we're going to talk about in a minute, and then always we like to just list. There's a lot of interesting DHCP drafts. There's 5 of them I've put here. I'm only 4 bullets. I'm not sure what I goofed, but there's a couple here you should go read if you're into DHCP. These are just relative drafts to let everybody know. They're not working group documents yet. A couple of them are trying to be. So we'll talk about those today. And then there's just some other ones. Past presentations, there was a spring presentation about the DHCP one there, so that's still ongoing. So these are just relevant documents to the working group. Feel free to read them at your own pleasure. We just like to highlight them. And that's it for the administrative side. So I think the next thing we're going to do is switch over to 8415. Okay, so this is for advancing DHCP v6 to Internet Standard presentation. So a couple things here, just to remind everybody, we've motivation for advancing DHCP to Internet Standard. This is the next, we've had this slide up for a while. It's a milestone of this working group to move this to an Internet Standard from the current status it's at, and this has been ongoing. So a couple things happened since the last IETF, which is good. We left it in working group last call a little bit longer than we intended, but we got some really good feedback, so I think it ended up working out for us. Intentional or not, I think it worked out better. So we published 05. So we just recently published that. There are 2 things we did in there. One of them is we clarified the UDP ports. There were some questions, and I've included a link to the mail archive if you're really interested in it. There's been some confusion about what UDP ports people want to use. and how to use them. So we clarified it. I thought it ended up being really good text saying, hey, this is the cases where you use it and how to do it. So that got added in '05. And then the other thing we did with this, we had a sort of an oops. We had some text that was from the original 8415 about IA address option only being in the IANA, which is not true. It was added to adder notification, and then previously to that, it was in lease query. So we had it in two places that it didn't previously. We reused the option, which made sense. So we took out all of that text in '05. So the good news there is that DHCP adder is now good to go. That one's no longer violating 8415, and then lease query we patched as well. And those are the only two changes we made to this document at this point. So '05 is out there. What we would like to do is we've already done working group last call. We want to do 2 weeks. We want to ship this to the IESG. Oof, wow, it's already been a long week apparently. We want to send it to them in 2 weeks. So this is kind of our last comments. If anyone has any last comments, please feel free to come up to the mic now, or yeah, come up to the mic, please, if you have any more comments about this document or any more things. We kind of want to close this. We've let this run probably an IETF too long, so we want to try to close this gap. So does anyone have any comments they'd like to make? Okay, great. No one got up. So we're going to send this. So I'll send an email out to the list, but we'll send this to the plan will be in 2 weeks to send this off and start getting it through the process. Suresh has nicely agreed in previous IETFs. Are you still good, Suresh, to document share? Okay, Suresh is nodding his head at me. So I think we're good. All right, so that's it for this then. I don't think we have anything. Bernie, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, I think we're in good shape there. We're good to go, and I'd like to see it get done.
Okay, awesome. All right, so then we're going to move to our next presentation. Claudio, I know you're remote and in Italy, and it's very late, so we'll try to get you set up.
Hello, here I am.
Perfect.
And my presentation is about a work that we have started at IETF 118, and then it has proceeded during the time. We got some contribution, and now we have moved into another step. So let me thanks first for all IETF community for having helped us solving what was a problem, and now it is a solution. So let me really take this chance for say thank you for all the people who has given us suggestion and helped us solving a real problem. Uh, I need to make a quick recall from, yes, please switch to slide number 2, Tim.
Okay.
The quick description of the problem is that in the radio access network was not really a network until a new requirement. So we had a configuration where we had a simple connection one to n. So we had one device connected to a number n of radio, and we had no problem in understanding what radio was connected to what of the plug of this device. But since there is a new requirement now from mainly driven from the Open RAN organization, that uh, the relationship between the radio and the controlling unit is N to M now, and then we have a network in between. This is challenging, and it's not the normal way the network grew up, because the communication between those devices is much more complex, and it's not IP based. It is also, we also have IP, but we don't have IP only. So actually we get we got into the problem of properly configuring the radio with information that come from the topology. So we have started digging into what is possible to do with the topology. This solution exists for IPv6 using DHCPv6, but the solution does not exist with the DHCP version legacy, the version 4, because the relay agent the layer 2 relay, there are no layer 2 relay agent with capable of transporting the old topology to the server here. But really, again, thanks to IETF suggesting how to read the various description, we have found out that we have a way for encapsulating the DHCP v4 into the DHCP v6. So actually, if you go directly into slide number 5, then it's number 5. So having DHCP v4 over DHCP v6 solves the problem. The only new challenge that is remaining in our use case is that implementing DHCP v4 over DHCP v6 at the client is out of control for us and for mainly for the deployment of this new configuration of the network because of interoperability, because the client is built up by a large variety of vendor and configuration, and that is and then we are also in another type, say political configuration, because the transport network may be different from the RAN. So we have one organization providing the transport, so administering the switch, and another organization administering the radio and the servers. So it may be complex. So since we have already a solution for DHCP v6, we would like to have to use exactly the same solution for the legacy DHCP. So what we would need here is the possibility of having the encapsulation DHCP v4 over DHCP v6 in the relay agent rather than having in the client. So not having this option as mandatory, but as an option, but actually implementing that part in the relay agent. So if you go into slide number 7, this is what we slide number 7. I mean, yeah, this is what we would like to have as a possibility. From a normative part, it is only since DHCP-v4 over DHCP-v6 is already an RFC, so there is nothing to be added. It works all the procedure, all the encapsulation, the bit, the data structure. It's already defined and stated pretty well how it needs to be done. I can also say that we as Ericsson organization will do that anyhow in our switch. So this is a solution that we will use in the real network when doing the deployment. Since network is interoperability, we would like to have a description or having the adoption of our draft that describes this type of deployment of DHCP-v4 over DHCP-v6 at the relay agent for permitting the interoperability and for permitting for this new configuration to be standard. I have received we have received a number of comments to the existing draft that is a lot focused on the radio use case. And actually, I understand that having a specific use case is in a way misleading. And there are also, has been pointed out that there is another RFC that is describing about the problem of the topology. It's the RFC 7969 that describes this part. So we may refer to that RFC and fully remove the use case from the radio on that. So actually, what we ask is to get comments and eventually proceeding with the adoption. I have nothing very much to add to this presentation. So if we can directly move into the question and answer part. Thank you for listening to me.
Okay, we got some people lined up, so go ahead, David.
David Lamparter. The draft is not overly specific yet on what exactly the relay agent is supposed to do. In the diagram, you have a legacy DHCP server on the right-hand side of the network. Are you intending to support this decapsulation and then have a legacy IPv4 DHCP server, or is that just a misunderstanding in the diagram?
It is a misunderstanding. I was making this diagram too long ago, actually. Yes, but this is a DHCP server that complies to DHCP v4 over DHCP v6. So it is either a monolithic implementation that supports both, or it is an implementation that does decapsulation and forwards to a DHCP v4 server. But nothing new related to what existing already, and it is standardized. But as I said, all this stuff about radio network will be removed from the draft, and then we will make reference to the RFC 7969 for the topology discovery, as it is already mentioned there.
Yeah, thanks.
It is actually a I meant it's actually a pity that 4/6 was specified only at the client and not being given the possibility to be implemented at the relay agent. In our specific case, we have a mixed usage of the network, so we have both layer 3 and layer 2 that are switched there. So that we need to have a relay agent working on layer 2. And this does not exist for DHCP v4, but it exists for v6. And this DHCP v4 over DHCP v6 actually is a solution that helps, and it does not need any further standardization.
David Lamparter again. Just as a positive comment, as someone who probably will implement this, I don't see a particular problem. Seems fine.
Thanks.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I want to just mention something. This is Bernie Volt. I think it was Mohammed that on the list had made some comment about referencing that 7969 text, and that actually also triggered something in me to, one of the things you may need to look at is that so when the client is using broadcast traffic, or, because that's how it communicates in v4 to the relay agent, you're okay. But you may have to think about the case of when it is unicasting a renewal, right? I mean, I think if the server is reachable, the ultimate DHCP server is reachable with whatever address the client has, you're okay. But if it's not, that may be an issue, because I'm not sure, what the IPv4 routing infrastructure will provide there. So it may be something you need to look at. It's a known problem already, and we have like server ID override features and things like that that are used in some other networks where we don't want the renewal to be sent to the server directly, but instead want it to go to the relay agent.
Yeah, thank you, Bernie. You find actually one of the points that we need to specify better, and is when you have this implementation at the relay agent. That means that it is actually the relay agent responsibility to avoid all this fuss and make this DHCP over 6 only, and not distributing anything else. Actually, it is the relay agent that needs to parse the request and eventually drop what is dangerous for the configuration. Yeah, that we will write about on the new version of the draft. Thank you very much for the comment.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, when you have a new version of the draft, I think it'd be very interesting to take a look at it, and the group can comment. I mean, I think in the long run, this work is probably interesting to the working group. So I think, it is something that we may look to adopt, but maybe you want to do 1 or 2 more revs of the draft first to improve the draft and stuff, and make it a little bit more detailed before we consider the adoption question.
Thank you very much for the comment, and I am committed. We, the team, because we are a team, we are committed to make improvement of the draft and tuning that in the direction driven by the comments from the community. Thank you again.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the right next steps, Bernie. We'll get a couple of revisions, Claudio, from you guys, and then we can talk about adopting this. I agree with Bernie. I think it's definitely within our charter, and we could adopt this. So that's good. Yeah, Suresh, go ahead.
Thanks. Thanks, Bernie. Thanks, Tim. So if we have the pending comments address, what is kind of delaying adoption at that point, right? If we can kind of get it all in the next revision, right? Is it okay to kind of go for adoption at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the RAN stuff's got to be removed. I think we talked about
Okay.
there was mailing list. I think we could probably go after the next. We could go for a call to adoption.
I think the RAN stuff, I kind of was wanted to add the RAN stuff because there was the last meeting when this was presented, right? Somebody actually asked for that context on why you want to do that, right? And that's why the RAN stuff is there, because somebody asked for it. So if you can take it out, but if it's confusing, but there's kind of the justification for the use case, because it, at least for me, it made clear why this was an issue, right? There's some set of nodes that cannot be updated, and that's kind of getting lost. I'm sure there's other use cases, but it is probably just keep it somewhere. I don't mind taking it out, but I think it's it was somebody had that issue.
Yeah,
why
I know.
are we doing
And
this work, right?
what's funny is that then it caused more confusion afterwards. So that's kind of where I landed on this. Is I totally agree last time that this was one of the things people wanted to change, but then it seems to cause more confusion on the mailing list.
Okay,
so I think that's the general consensus. But I do not have a strong opinion on this, and I don't think the working group does. So I think you can make your best.
Yeah, no,
judgment.
taking it out is fine. But I think the reason we kind of ended up on the solution rather than the previous DHCP v4 L2RA kind of solution was that this has got a clear exit path for V6, right? So all the infrastructure is V6, right? And when this V4 things go away, we can kind of stick in a V6 only without keeping additional legacy V4 infrastructure is the interesting point. So thanks, really, and we'll try to get this updated as soon as possible, Bernie and Tim. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, Mia Kühlement, another courser. I also wanted to say I would actually propose to move it into the appendix, because I totally understand that it might be confusing if we have it in the main document. It sounds like this is specific to this use case, which is not the case. It's a more general mechanism, but having the motivation clear and making clear why we design it in this way because we have this use case, I think it's so useful. So put it in the appendix so we don't, like, if the question comes up again, we don't have
that's
to like wrap out an old draft.
Seems to be an excellent idea from my seat for sure. Bernie, you're up.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest is for now, let's move the RAND stuff into an appendix. We can always decide later on either to keep it or to jettison it if we don't, think it adds sufficient value. But I would agree. That's the best thing to do is to move it out to an appendix and focus on the main core of the material, which is how you use this, and less on the specific use case.
Michael, you're up.
Michael Richardson at Mike. Sorry, I'm late. I didn't ever think, I commented on it. I never thought it should be removed. I just didn't understand it. That didn't mean I thought that it should be removed, or even, put it in appendix if you like. But all I'm saying is that it sounded like there was a use case there that was well thought out and was motivating things. I just didn't understand it. Okay. And I have a bit more understanding of it from conversations, that mailing list or whatever, but that doesn't mean the text is great yet. But I think you should leave it in. I just think you probably just need to either delete a sentence or add a sentence or move a comma or I don't know what, but maybe it, like you heard that, this. If I understood the use case well enough to propose text, then yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think we're coming to it. Let's keep it to the appendix. I think that'll solve everyone's problem, and we'll be good. Any last comments on this draft? Okay, sweet. This was it for the actual scheduled stuff. So I think the only other things we have is just kind of doing a recap on this really quick. So today, I think the two things we're going to have is 8415 biz is we're going to ship that off. You have 2 weeks if you have deep thoughts you want to give about it. Please, you've got a couple weeks here. We're going to give you a week after the IETF because I know everybody loves having a lot of work the week after the IETF. So we're going to give you a little bit longer. Take a look, and then we'll ship that one off. And then we're going to get an update for the draft we just had presented. I don't think there's any other documents out there looking to get adopted by us at the moment, but that doesn't mean there won't be in the future. So I think that's everything. Bernie, did I miss everything? Did I miss anything?
Nope, that was it. Yep.
Oh,
Eric wants.
Yep, our AD is walking up.
So Eric Ving, responsibility for this DHC group. So the plan was to close DHC after the BIS document was published. Looks like we are keeping more and more work coming, so which is good. So the plan is no more to close the working group, but keep it open for a couple of IETF, and then we will see.
Okay. So yeah, that's.
Are you clapping in your hand because I want to close it or want to stay open, right?
Yeah, we are the longest running working group, I think, now. So we have that going for us.
David Lamparter. We just determined this IETF that we need a new option to communicate IPv6 next hops for IPv4 routes in DHCP. And please don't close the working group in front of me.
Yeah, no, I think that's what we're finding is people are finding use cases as it becomes more prevalent. So yeah, we're going to keep it around. We're not going to close it right away. So if you do have your wonderful DHCP ideas, feel free to pitch them. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Josh Cohen. Since you're finished with your agenda items, I thought I might ask a few questions.
Yeah.
So I'm one of the authors of WPAD, the Web Proxy Auto Discovery for HTTP. Anyone familiar with that?
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah. So I did that 25 years ago, back in the 1.1 days, and that was before DHCP was even deployed, or widely deployed at least.
Yep.
So one of the after security vulnerability advisory after over the years, it's come time to sort of have a discussion about what to do about that. And so one alternative is just to get rid of it. Another is to narrow it down. And so that means, obviously getting rid of some of the deprecated discovery mechanisms. And one of them is DHCP, which is currently one of the ones that's used. And so I had a couple of questions in terms of the current state of DHCP.
You're asking about V4, I'm assuming, is what you're asking about, the current status of what goes. So we're chartered to do V4 stuff. We can, if you want to make updates to previous things, we're open for business for those things. We obviously deal with options. But we obviously mostly today focus on V6 options. Not that we couldn't put out something. Bernie, we're allowed to talk about, I think we're allowed to change. We can change V4 stuff, right?
Well,
Yeah,
I
I
think, I think we'd like to hear what those issues are and see, and then, like everything, drafts speak loudest. And then assuming Eric is okay with us adopting the work and the working group's okay with it, then we can move forward.
Okay, well, I think that is probably premature to go that far, but so are we allowed to talk about V6 stuff?
You can talk about V4 or V6 stuff in this forum. We have extra time, and
All right, great. So the big issue is security, which is the way Tommy Pauly would describe it is the lack of a root trust, right? Which is that you can spoof DHCP server and then basically trick the web browser into picking up a proxy and get a man-in-the-middle attack. Although that's a lot less, I think, feasible or common than some of the other ways that it works. DHCP seems to be better than the DNS solution. So my question is, one, in the WPAD draft, we make an assertion that option code, I think it's 252 or 254 is where WPAD, the URL for the pack file goes, although we never followed through and registered it with IANA.
bold choice.
Well, that is true. I think it was, when we did it, we thought, okay, this is a short-term solution. We're going to do this better. And we just never got around to it. And the short-term solution became the long-term solution. So I think the first question is in terms of, where DHCP, either V4, V6, or both are with respect to better security in terms of possibly authenticating or something, or to avoid those kinds of spoofing attacks. And the other is, are V6 and V4 options the same in terms of the code they use, or are those different? And are there any constraints in terms of what you can put in the value of those options?
Bernie, you want to take this one?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the number space for V4 and V6 options is completely separate and different. It's the same for messages and everything. There's a few cases, like you're raising the security or authentication issues. There are a few cases where we do use the same table of sort of sub values as was used in V4, just because it made sense to only have sort of one set of those. But V4 options are completely different than V6. There's, the option space is different. The formatting is often, hopefully in V6, cleaner now, because we learned our lessons from some of the messes in V4 and things like that. But security, just to touch on security, there was a lot of work done on that for a number of years, but it's a very difficult problem to solve, to try to secure or to authenticate the DHCP transaction.
Okay, so yeah, it's a hard problem that remains not really well solved. And that's not unique to DHCP.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, this problem is not unique. People do have setups and networks, right, where they have things like DHCP guard or other mechanisms to prevent rogue servers from appearing, right, which is a different problem than authenticating the actual DHCP traffic. But
right.
I think the well-known issue is making sure that there aren't rogue DHCP servers. Most networks have the ability to solve that problem. Authenticating the DHCP messages is another issue in itself.
What did you call the solution to prevent the DHCP guard?
Yeah, that's it's DHCP guard is what it's called. And so that's where you prevent servers that aren't on certain ports from sending or answering DHCP.
Yeah, it's like Savi is another one of the documents that's around that whole architecture of, monitoring. This is for like switches and routers to monitor what addresses are provided by authoritative DHCP servers or whatever, so that they can restrict traffic properly.
Okay. So that was guard, and what was the second one?
Savi.
How do you spell that?
SAVI.
SAVI. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there's also, the 802.11x as well, that, what the Ethernet port you plug into or whatever, authenticating that at that lower level that you could use.
Okay, we had a walk on topic. Great. Okay, so I think we're going to conclude the meeting. We talked about the next steps. I want to thank everybody for coming today, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the future. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
Bonnie.
Thanks, Eric.
All right.
Thank you.
And thanks, Claudio, for presenting from Italy at 2 a.m. Get some sleep. All right. Take care.
Actually, I'm in the moonshine now.
Yep, it is. It was like full moon, I think, yesterday or something. So it is pretty bright.
Yeah. Yeah. And 36 degrees actually here.
right,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Bye.
Yeah, we only got 2 presentations, and 8415, there's not a whole lot to say. It's done. So I think that was kind of what we